In the name of Allah, most gracious, most merciful. All praise and thanks are due to Allah, and peace and blessings be upon His Messenger. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. In Islam, there are two types of mandatory zakah. First is zakatul fitr, which is a fixed amount that has to be paid by rich and poor alike by the head of the household for every member of his or her family before the Eid prayers at the end of Ramadan. Please check with your local masjid for the exact amount. The second is zakatul mal. This can be paid anytime, and each individual is responsible to pay his or her own zakah. Zakat al-Mal constitutes one of the 5 pillars of Islam. Muslims who do not pay zakah will receive severe punishment on the Day of Judgment. Any Muslim who denies its obligation is placed outside of Islam. Zakah must be paid by every Muslim who has a nisab, which is a value of 3 ounces or 85 grams of gold, which is the minimum of one's holding liable to zakah. The nisab is conditioned by these following. Zakah should be paid on any amount of money remaining after meeting the expenses for such necessities as food, clothes, housing, vehicles, and craft machines. According to Imam Malik and Imam Ahmad and the majority of scholars, the amount of property liable for payment of zakah, such as gold, silver, or cattle, is tied to the completion of nisab through the turn of a whole lunar year. If the nisab decreases in any time of the year, the counting of the year discontinues. Later, if the nisab is completed, the year count is resumed from the time of its completion. On the same subject, Imam Abu Hanifa holds that what matters is the availability of nisab at the beginning and end of the year. Its decrease at any time in between does not matter. The guardian of a child or of a mentally retarded person must pay zakah on his behalf from his property if it constitutes a nisab. Whoever has property must pay its proper zakah. If the property is indebted, he may first pay off his debt, then in case the remainder is enough to constitute a nisab, he must pay zakah. If he does not hold the nisab, then he does not have to pay it since he is poor. If a person dies before he pays zakah, then it must be taken from his estate before anything else is paid. Since the payment of zakah is an act of worship, its validity depends upon the expression of one's intention. That is, the zakah payer should pay it for the sake of Allah. He should make up his mind with all of his heart that zakah is an obligation to be discharged. Zakah must be paid immediately at its due time. Deferring payment of zakah is prohibited unless the payer for some valid reason cannot pay it on time. In such a case, he may wait until he is able to pay it. It is permissible for zakah to be paid in advance even for 2 years. It is desirable that the recipient invoke blessing for the zakah payer at the time of its payment. There is no zakah on women's jewelry if she wears it. However, if it is used for investment purposes, then zakah must be paid. Scholars agree that no zakah has to be paid on diamonds, pearls, sapphires, rubies, or any kind of precious stones unless they are used for trade. It is better to give zakah to an individual in a respectful manner without hurting his or her dignity. It is not mandatory to inform the recipient that you are paying zakah. The majority of scholars among the companions, the followers, the generation after them, and the jurists who came subsequently held that zakah on merchandise is compulsory. Zakah does not replace tax. There are 8 categories of zakah recipients mentioned in the Qur'an. First, the poor who cannot meet their basic needs, but they have neither wealth nor secure livelihood. Number 2, the needy, the extremely poor who cannot meet even basic needs. Number 3, those persons who are appointed to collect zakah regardless of personal wealth. Number 4, those who have recently converted or are considering converting to Islam. 5, zakah may be used to purchase the freedom of slaves. 6, a person whose debts exceeds his assets. 7, those who are away from home working in the path of Allah. 8, a traveler who is stranded and is in need of financial assistance. It is also permissible to give zakah to the needy relatives. The relatives to whom zakah cannot be given are wife, children, grandchildren, parents, and grandparents. Thus, all non-dependent relatives such as brothers, sisters, uncles, aunts, nephews, nieces, etc. can receive the zakah if they are poor and need help. Zakah rate is 2.5% on cash, cattle, sheep, business net worth, and on current values of jewelry, stocks, and mutual funds. Please use the link mentioned in the description section of this video for further details on zakah. Lastly, I ask you to please take the payment of zakah very seriously. Otherwise, you will have serious consequences on the Day of Judgment. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.